Hello and welcome to another episode of An Echo of Glory. Joining me today, got the two Jakes. Jake Robson, hello.
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 You look confused there. You weren't sure which one you were.
Well, yeah, you go. You say Jake.
Jake Sanders.
It's the return of the Jake.
How are you?
I'm good, you?
I'm all right. Jake Sanders has had a lovely weekend because he loves it when Spurs don't play. And gets upset when we talk about football in the WhatsApp group.
Watching the golf, the darts, Luke Littler.
Saw a bit of that last night. Was it last night?
Yeah.
I know why you've loved this weekend.
Why?
Because you just love international football, don't you?
I know. I get a bit of criticism for this.
Do you?
Yeah, for liking international football.
Being a football hipster.
No, isn't like the
You're
fashion.
You're UEFA stooge, are you?
The fashion is to hate international football.
You paid to say this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, it keeps me in a job.
Very handsomely.
Are you not there tonight? You've been working on international football.
I have been working on international football, yeah. I'm there tomorrow. Absolutely.
Is he still on tomorrow? Is there still...
Better be, because...
he's been employed.
Yeah.
But it's weird, because England used to play on Tuesday, and when England played, that was sort of the end of it. And now, because we're sort of playing on Sundays, it's still a bit of time.
But promotion to League A, yeah? How about that?
It's fantastic. It's what we're there for, isn't it?
Yeah. I had an Australian, Dan Garb, a friend of the show.
Garby.
He was like, you need a degree from like MIA. Is it MIA? MIT. To understand the Nations League. It's just so bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, well, it was quite simply explained, though, isn't it? You've got four top groups, 4 second-tier groups, 4 third-tier groups, and 4 fourth-tier.
Now tell me how the playoffs work.
Oh no, I don't know about that.
All right, you said, Jake, that why we were moaning in the group all weekend about this story that came up, which we're going to come to in a minute, about apparently the pressure on Andy and his falling out with some players, and you were like, it's the weekend, why are you talking about Spurs? Does it not just live with you all the time?
It doesn't anymore. It doesn't.
Really?
I didn't think... If I wasn't in that group, I wouldn't have even thought of that. Ipswich game was gone after whenever, Sunday night.
20 minutes into the game.
Yeah. And
parked it and moved on.
It was out of the system. I thought,
Okay.
I was caring about you. Like, I didn't want your weekends to be consumed by Tottenham nonsense. And
there was a lot of nonsense. We'll come to it in a second. Club news. Women got hammered by Arsenal. It was 3-0, but it really should have been more. And now they're starting to talk of a lack of investment in the team. I think they said on the Athletic pod, Spurs pod, A View from the Lane, that with a 4th lowest investment of all the Premier League WSL teams, got the 4th lowest budget. I think it's starting to show a little bit.
Did you see that photo doing the rounds from the game of the Tottenham director's box?
Yeah, they weren't there.
No one there.
I think, listen,
that says a lot, though.
I don't expect them to be at every game. But
yeah,
I think
but the North London derby at that ground,
at the stadium, I think they probably should have been there.
Weird, because I covered the final match of last season at the ground, and Daniel Levy was there.
And it was live on BBC as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. I did the pre-match stats for that game. Any good ones you get picked out?
I didn't watch it.
You're part of the problem.
Right.
International break. We've had some positive news. Son scored his 50th goal. I think he's still got 1 game left. He scored a penalty against Kuwait. You had a stat on that. Son getting substituted.
Well, I saw him get subbed, and I thought, I wonder if he's going to get. I haven't. I know that he never, ever, ever gets subbed, regardless of the score. And I just thought, oh, Son's got subbed. I wonder if someone's finally monitoring his minutes. And then I checked, and I can't remember exactly what it was. It was like basically the earliest he's been substituted in a game since
for career. This is
for career since 2019.
Correct.
To put that into context, that is probably about 50 to 60 games, I'd say. So, I mean, yeah, that's. No wonder he's picking up a few niggly injuries.
So the Georgia game, if you're interested, was his 83rd cap. And the other night was 131. So it's 50 caps.
50 cap? I'm talking 90 minutes every single game.
He gets the odd 87, 88, but yeah.
But, coming off after an hour is.
Yeah.
They obviously don't put any stock in, giving him his own ovation after like 88 minutes, get him off, give him a clap, take the adulation.
Away to Q8.
Yeah, well, exactly. But he's big, isn't he? They follow him all over the world.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's a sign of things to come, and they're properly monitoring his minutes and not wheeling him out for this one and that one when they're 5-0 up and not taking him off. So,
they've got a game tomorrow.
Another 90
Against?
minutes
They are
incoming.
playing Palestine. We'll not get too political, but they're playing Palestine, which they should win comfortably. So does he need to play more than an hour? He just doesn't. Just going back to the women's team, Norman Stanley Fletcher, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Joining us on the comments, Grace Clinton, enormously missed by the women's team. Yeah, absolutely. On loan from Man United last year and didn't replace her. Other bits and pieces from the international break, Christian Romero took himself off to Argentina.
I knew this was going to be. This was so obvious.
Came off just before half time against Paraguay. I think he's left the camp now. Was he playing in Barcelona? He's left the camp and come back to London. Suspect we won't be seeing.
Do we know the injury though?
It's a foot when he swiped out Morgan
that
Rogers.
Whole last few weeks with Romero has been a scandal. He was a doubt for Villa, came on, played 60 minutes, came off. He was a doubt for Ipswich, played 90.
Yeah,
and I actually checked the South American qualifying table just to think. I wonder if they could monitor his minutes, and they actually lost to Paraguay, didn't they?
Yeah.
But I mean, ridiculous from Argentina and Tottenham, both of them, to allow him to go away.
Did Argentina? Ross Hughes here. Did Argentina?
Not sure
only
Tottenham
have
can really do much about it.
No, I think that's. But
if the player says he's fit and he gets called up, I mean, it has to be what I'm saying is it has to be a collaboration between player and club. If the player's on board with it.
Surely Romero knows that one or two qualifiers is not. I know they're desperate to play, but like
he loves it. But he's not playing. They got Peru. Is their last game. He won't be playing in that. A couple of other bits and pieces.
But also the other thing is you have to understand for someone like Romero going back to Argentina, it's
it's a big deal.
It's a big deal. It's like going home. It's not like if he plays in Europe and he can pop over for a night or whatever. It's a chance for him to go, and he probably look forward to going back to Argentina. If nothing else,
I'm glad he was cut short. He deserved. His form's been so bad. I'm glad he's been cut short.
Someone posted a tweet. This is going back to my point about like the Nations League. Fans hate the international break. Players love playing,
especially the ones that are going really far. Yeah.
Kane's comments. They love playing. They love
Kane,
They love meeting up with the guys they don't always see and that they've won tournaments with, especially in Romero.
I wouldn't be.
That's why when fans say, this one should drop out, that one should drop out because we're in a title race. Why would Declan Rice want to play against Ireland at home? I bet he did. I bet he did if he was fit.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I was going to say Kane probably loves it even more now. Now he's not in England, to come back.
Just like what you said with Romero, and it is round the corner, but he gets to come home and train at his beloved Tottenham.
Right, a couple of bits and pieces before we move on to having to talk about Tottenham actually playing football matches. Vicario played in goal last night for Italy. All this talk, it was letting 3 goals, 2 from set pieces. None were his fault. It was scored an own goal, which Dina took a great free kick and hit the.
I reckon I saw some of those comments. These are people that didn't even watch the game.
He could have maybe come for one, but like one of them was just like a standard header from a corner. Like, come on.
The speed at which some people were replying to those comments. I know that people haven't watched that game live. They may have seen clips of those where it's not even on TV here, is it?
You can watch it on YouTube. But the first thing I did was
live?
Yeah, you can.
For free?
No, it's on that one.
It's
TV.
on Premier Sports.
No, France, Italy. You can watch it on Viaplay YouTube, I think.
Really?
I can't imagine how many would tune in, but I saw it and thought, you know what? I'm going to look for myself. Watch the first few guys and thought, give over. That's just driving an agenda, isn't it? Yeah. Nonsense.
Udogie, I don't think he came on last night. He came on when they played. Oh, he did. He came on against Belgium. Came on against.
We need him not to be playing a lot of minutes.
Yeah, he came on. Dragusin played in this game that didn't finish. Do you see this?
Yeah.
88 minutes. Kosovo walked off. So
he needs some minutes. So.
Well, they'll play again this week. Bentancur's back playing for Uruguay. The ban is apparently getting announced this week. 6-7 games, which, listen.
He's just come back from a ban for Uruguay, hasn't he?
Yeah. It's such a shame with him because he gets running the team and then goes out injured, but it's his own fault in this instance. Kulusevski played really well for Sweden. They beat Slovakia. That Gyökeres scored another brilliant
They've got
goal.
a great team, haven't they?
They've got a really good team.
A great front three, sorry.
Gyökeres, Isak and Elanga.
And
Kulu. Yeah, it's a good side.
It's a great team.
Solanke played a couple of minutes last night. Johnson played for Wales in a really good draw against Turkey. They got one more to go.
Gyökeres is the classic example, isn't he, of why didn't we sign that guy? But imagine if we'd signed Blackburn. Was he Blackburn?
Coventry.
The Coventry striker.
Yeah. What are you signing from the Championship?
I've been calling the Championship signings for ages.
Suddenly people, but there was complaints that we signed Solanke over Gyökeres. Suddenly people wanted a Coventry striker over Bournemouth striker. It's like, just give me a break.
So the Bentancur ban's going to be reported this week. As Gaxman says, it's a significant amount of games. It's a position that we're not weak in. We've got Bissouma, we've got Sarr, and for me, it will be a chance for Archie Gray to shine in his right position.
Do you know what I wanted to ask this the other day? Do you think Gray Europa League plays? Do you think Bentancur will play in Europe?
Bentancur will have to play.
Bentancur will have to play.
But as in, I understand what you're saying because he can't play in the league. But is this not a really good opportunity? Because if we then need to use Gray in the league, you've got a bit of game time there in two
play
proper
Gray and
games.
Yeah, so couldn't they both play?
Yeah,
they're quite similar,
Yeah,
but play them
that is fair.
together.
But I
guess now you've got to protect Bissouma in Europe, haven't you?
Yeah.
Right.
I reckon Gray's got a better chance of playing in defence, though. I reckon we'll see them both on the pitch.
Here we go. No, I'm going to interrupt you. Khalil, this was okay. Khalil asked me, one guest who came up with a title for the podcast. No, he said no ticker for a rebuild, no time for a rebuild. The title of this podcast is Are the Players Revolting? It's a kind of hilarious play on words. No, they are not revolting. Khalil will come to that. It was just a prod, really, to get people like you riled up. So you maybe would listen and see what we have to say. Spoiler alert, no, we don't think the players are revolting, so you can do with that info what you want. Let's talk about it. Let's go straight in. Talk about this week. There's no match to talk about, despite it's international week. How can you be talking about Tottenham in your WhatsApp groups all week? This story came out that some players, did they name the players?
Vicario, Romero,
Udogie and Bentancur had fallen out with Ange.
I can't see Vicario, sorry, but just of all those, Vicario.
Bentancur.
We could go through all of them.
But those four specifically seem like
Udogie, he's basically made Udogie.
Yeah,
and Vicario's coming to the Premier
Vicario,
League.
yeah. But yeah.
You could argue Romero might be the kind that could clash with a manager, but I'm not having any of that.
No,
absolutely.
Okay. So we don't.
Yeah, look, Ross Hughes, not a reliable source, and it's not been reported anywhere else.
Yeah, I'm sure it's an absolute nonsense. But what it has done, and what this international break has done, is allow people to take stock of a little bit of where we are. We've all had discussions about where we think we are, where we think we're going.
And let's not beat around the bush. Jake is a print journalist. If there was any truth to this, Jake would know about it.
No one's printed. No one's not one person. No one's said a whisper about it. And do you know what? On Friday he'll get asked about it, Ange, and he'll probably give quite a spiky response.
Rightly.
I reckon he might take the piss out of it
and go, "Yeah, we've all had a massive falling out.
Something,
I hate all of my players."
Yeah. So to go back to Khalil's point, we don't think the players are revolting. Are they revolting in some of the way they've played recently? Yes. That was the hilarious play on words that I wanted.
If you had to explain it didn't work.
Correct. If you have to explain it doesn't work. But what it has done this week is especially after the defeat to Ipswich, fans pointing their anger in certain ways. Some towards Ange, some towards players.
Some towards that desk.
Some towards that desk. some towards the owners. Some will point it at one of those three, two of those three, all of those three. So I want to just kind of discuss a few of these things, these little factors. Let's start with Ange. We all love what he brought in. The first 10, 11 games, whatever it was last season, were incredible. That Son goal against Chelsea, if it had stood, who knows where.
When are we going to get to a stage where we don't mention that? We're not over it, are we?
We're not over it. No, because it was just so wonderful. And I remember saying in the ground, I've said this a million times, we're going to win the league. And then that flag goes up. I still don't think it's offside.
The ground just went berserk.
Because we had
that was an I was
Chelsea.
There moment, weren't it?
Yeah. We had battered Chelsea, and the goal was just like this football we hadn't seen. It was the peak goal with Udogie coming in.
You see the clip do the rounds on Twitter sometimes and say, throw back to this, bring me back to this moment.
Yeah.
After 10.3 games.
Yeah.
And we're top.
So that happened. And then we've been...
Didn't we score another goal late on that was...
Dyer.
Yeah.
We had like 4 players. So the first 10 games were stunning. We've been consistently inconsistent since then. Some people have said he's not tweaking things. I think he is. You can call it plan A, plus, plan B, plan C, whatever you want. We've gone to a 4-2-3-1 at times. Things have started to change. But this is where I point to you, Jake Robson. We are wonderful at times, like West Ham at home second half, Villa at home second half, but we're frustrating away from home. It's a results business. and I can see why people are frustrated with losing to Ipswich, drawing with Leicester, albeit that was months ago now, losing at Palace. You were giving if we'd beaten Ipswich, we'd be third, but we didn't. We lost. So you're much more in the... I'm certainly not Ange out before anyone says anything. I'm here for the rebuild, but results have been consistently inconsistent, and that concerns me a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that's fine. And it's obviously people are going to get annoyed that we lost to Ipswich and, you know, some of the Palace game. Yeah, I get that. People have a right to be annoyed, but I think it feels like a lot of the annoyance is being pointed at the manager, which again is correct. But I'm starting to feel that the narrative of like he's not up to it is kind of coming into it, and that for me is basically Ange out. So if you're saying he's not up to, not you, if people are saying he's not up to it, it means they don't want him there, and I don't think we're at that point yet.
Do you though? Do you not think it might be, in my opinion?
But then how are people? If people are saying he's not up to it, what are they? How are they seeing it as improving? He's suddenly going to find a magic. I was going to say magic mushroom, magic pill to suddenly be up to it over the next 5 games.
I think it might be tweaking things. We've seen him tweak. Like I said, we went into the 4-2-3-1. The fullbacks are nowhere near as inverted as they were, probably not as attacking as they were. So he's certainly trying to shut the back door a little bit. I guess the argument could be, can we stop conceding? Someone did that picture of the goals we've conceded. The West Ham goal, Villa goal, City goal, and one of the Ipswich goals are all scored from the same position on the pitch, which might not be his fault. It might be down to the players, which we'll come to. But the buck stops with the manager. And when you do start being inconsistent and losing games, we're all happy to sit here and praise them when we win. I think it gets a little bit when we lose, well, you're so negative you can't say anything. I've moved far beyond it's not St Mirren, mate, it's not St Johnstone. And I don't want him out, and I'm here for the rebuild, the painful rebuild that Poch was talked about 5-6 years ago. But I don't buy that if we'd won, we'd have been... Factually, you were correct, but we didn't. We lost.
But the point that I was making is the margins are very fine, and that's basically as close as we are. Well, that's as fine as the margin is between people perhaps being happy and people being disappointed with how the season's gone so far.
Yeah, but you can look and think, if we'd beaten Ipswich, right, great, we'd have been third. If we lost to City, then we could have been 9th again, easily. So that whole third...
Well, that's what I mean. So it's literally...
No, I know, but that's why when I was like, that, I can't buy the...
Yeah, especially at this point of the season, and especially as the fact that between 3rd and...
12th.
3rd and 12th is what, 4 points or something? Yeah. So that's why I think a bit of perspective is needed on it also. We've also scored... We've scored the most amount of goals in the Premier League. Last season, we didn't score anywhere near the kind of goals that we expected us to have scored, especially after those first 10 games. So it feels like we've had a couple of big wins, but it feels like we've addressed that. Our goal difference...
It's the best in the league, is it?
It's the best... it's the second best in the league behind Liverpool.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not conceding as many as... Well, I don't know what we conceded. We conceded a lot of goals last season. It feels like that's both
changed.
Ends of the pitch. Yeah. Something has been addressed.
Yeah.
So that's why, the results of it on the face of it. I haven't done a deep dive into how our stats have been in those games. Expected goals and this kind of thing. But certainly on the face of it, we're scoring more, and we've kept clean sheets this season that we didn't expect to keep. We've conceded fewer goals. I think
kept a clean sheet.
Kept two.
One was against 10 Man United. One was Everton at home.
Okay, but we've also the 13. We just haven't. It doesn't feel like at times it feels like we've been really open, but over the course of the first 11 games,
and I know this doesn't count for nothing, but
conceded.
Every game's been a 1-goal loss. And
right.
I'm not making it. Every loss has been a 1-goal loss. I think.
But and obviously we don't want to be 10th. But also, I think if you look at it, you have to. I think it works both ways. You can say that where are we going to end up at the end of the season? Realistically, where are Nottingham Forest, Brighton, Fulham?
Do you know what this is my, I don't care about the league table now. I don't care. If we were 6 points better off and still 10th, I'd be happy.
Yeah.
I would be happy.
Yeah,
it's
I agree.
The points, not the league position. It is the points is so low.
That's
why when everyone's saying we would have been...
You're looking at it with a considered head on. Most people are going, we're 10th, it's rubbish.
But I'd almost rather be 5th on 24 points than 3rd on 19. Because over the course of the season, when it levels out eventually, being 6 points better off from these games as well will, put us in a better position.
Yeah. What I will say is that we've played 11 games, 4 of them against teams currently in the top 10, and we've lost to 3 of them. It's for me, it's just the points against Ipswich and Palace and Leicester. I can't shake because we've got to try and claw points back that we often wouldn't claw back somewhere.
I feel like mine and you, our main concern is, and we're not Ange out at all, is I cannot see a way in the short term how we consistently win Premier League games. I don't see it. And that Ipswich game was a perfect game to build on Villa and, whatever happens at City. Then we've got Fulham, Bournemouth, Chelsea and Southampton, which are all winnable games. And now I look at them, what did I say before the show? I don't know if we'll win any of the next 3 or 4. I don't. But
at the same time, we did this with Gary way back in August, September, and I said, what if he loses the next 3? And we won the next 3. I think that 3 was slightly different opposition.
But I'm just saying, in terms of where we are, going into your Bournemouths aways and Fulham's at home, which traditionally Tottenham teams in the last 15 years would win. Now I'm like, I don't know. I really don't know what we're going to serve up. City's a bit irrelevant. We're not expected to go and win there, although I know a lot of people think it'll be typical Tottenham to lose to Ipswich and beat City. But it's those sort of Southamptons, Chelsea's at home, Bournemouths, Forest away on box. I don't know what we're going to get from them, which is a concern.
It is a concern. I totally agree.
I don't know what we're going to serve up.
But the problem that you have, I think, we had this at the end of Conte and all that, is that, and I'm not going to say that, everyone... One thing, we don't know whether we're going to win, but we know the team is much more, the style of play is clearly identifiable, and Ange just, he's got everyone sort of, it feels like there's a style there, and he's got everyone kind of playing in the right direction. Now, we haven't played well enough at times this season, but what you can say is that, especially at home, you're going to go there and you're going to be entertained. And I know it's not enough just to be entertained and not win, but it sort of has to start somewhere. And I know we're a season and a half through, but it is only halfway through the second season. And I just think that, there's it's still, for want of a better word, it's still all to play for.
Absolutely. And it's still a process. I hate that word, process. He has to be given the season.
And I don't know, I should have read the running order. I don't know if we're going to come onto this, but are we going to come onto squad and signings and depth?
I'm literally going to talk about the players next. It literally says it there on the running order.
It's all in here, isn't it?
It says players.
Yeah. Like Minority Report me.
James should get one of those in here. That would make life a lot easier for you, wouldn't it? One of them big screens. Right, well, Gaxman77 have asked.
I don't know.
What do you think the reason is for the inconsistency? Is it Ange, the players' attitude? Well, we can't really talk about attitude. I think we did talk last week before Ipswich that the attitude was wrong. We thought we just had to turn up. I don't know what the players were thinking. But let's talk about the players. Everyone's got their opinion. 3 of the revolting 4 have been criticised this season. Vicario, criticised for not commanding his area. Udogie, who defends. My son doesn't have a defensive bone in his body, but I think the way he tries to block across is like, I'm not doing this. Udogie's...
That's like a winger's mentality.
Yeah, he's defending like a winger when it comes to blocking crosses. He's not putting it in. Romero's been asleep for a number of goals this season. So that people have their issues with certain players. I personally still don't have an issue with Romero. I really, really like him. There's been positives. Porro, although he's dropped off a little bit, but he's played a lot of football.
And now he's
international,
starting every 90 minutes again.
Yeah, he's playing for Spain. The Spence Europa League thing is still baffling. Ku's been great. Sarr's been great. Bentancur, I love him. He's been great when he's played. Bissouma's had a better season than he finished last season. Solanke's been great. So, Jake, you've talked about Jake Robson. You've talked that's you. You've talked about, can we compete in Europe with this squad? I don't think this squad's too bad. I think we all agree that the summer wasn't great. We signed some really good young players, and Solanke was really the only first-team signing. We could have done more. We'll have a little bit of a chat about the owners shortly. But I think, personally, this squad is better than, like you said, forget the league position. Was it 16 points from 11 games? Yeah. I think the squad is better than that.
Yeah, definitely. No, I'm not saying it's not. I worry that over the course of a whole season, how good is the squad in what is perhaps going to be 4 competitions?
But we had no squad under Poch, and we got to a Champions League final.
Yeah, but the problem, I think, with the Poch situation, or the fortunate thing, I think Poch started from a higher base. When Ange came in, where were we? Where were we as a club? Where were we as a squad? Like, it was a shambles. Conte, Ryan Mason the second time. You could then bring in a new manager who wants to play a completely different style of football from the one that the squad that Conte had was assembled. the whole thing needed a rebuild from top to bottom. And that's what we're in the middle of. And that doesn't happen over, I don't even think, it doesn't even happen over 1 or 2 summers, really.
Yeah.
So I know, obviously under Poch, it was great. And we were the best football that I've seen us play, probably. I have to say that sometimes last season was up there with, in terms of.
Has been this season.
Yeah. Has been this season at times. I think the Poch take on from AVB, the Tim Sherwood squad.
Didn't have them on my bingo this morning.
Yeah, was. I think that was potentially a smoother transition, because although AVB turned out to be a bit of a disaster, I think the style of football that he wanted to play was probably more aligned to the way Poch was playing. The way that Conte was playing from the way that Ange wants to play is complete chalk and cheese, isn't it? Conte to Ange.
It's complete change.
Right. So I don't think the transition was going to be as smooth or as simple as it was back then when Poch came in. And I also think the Premier League now, there's more, and I know you may balk at this, but there's more better teams now than when Poch.
Yeah.
When Poch came in, it was a top 4. It was.
There wasn't Brighton, West Ham weren't as good. Newcastle were in the Championship.
Aston Villa, Aston Villa. Even teams like Brentford and Bournemouth, because everyone wants to play in that way that everyone wants to play. Yeah. And back then, you had your Stokes, you had your Wolves when they were bad. Who else?
Probably still beating us
your
twice.
Burnleys,
Wolves.
Yeah, but and we could pick teams off like that. Whereas now, I don't know. I think it's a tough league.
I agree with you.
For a start, it's not a top 4; it's a top 6 now. Which
Jake, I agree with you, but I still won't keep coming back to. I feel we should be picking off. It sounds so boring.
Yeah,
Leicester, Palace,
agreed.
And with respect to these teams, you can't go out and just beat them.
Yeah,
but promoted teams are normally cannon fodder to Tottenham. And I just feel Palace are not a promoted team, but we always seem to beat Palace. You had a stat you told me on squad connected to Europa League finishes or Champions League.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't. You brought it, and now you've not brought it.
Well, basically, there's this whole we can't compete in potentially both. So 15-16 under Poch, we won our Europa League group. We were 5th after 11 games. Then the next year, 16-17, we were 5th. Fair play, we came 3rd. 17-18, we were 3rd in the league, and we won our Champions League group with Real Madrid and Dortmund in it. And Champions League groups are a lot harder to win because you don't make changes. The year we won it, all right, we actually did struggle in the Champions League, but we came really good. We were 4th in the league, 2nd in our Champions League group. And then Mourinho season, we were top of the league after 11 games. And we won, okay, fair enough, a really easy Europa League group.
Which group was that?
Ludogorets, Antwerp, and Lask.
Oh, yeah.
Which was really easy. But what I'm saying is, we've never had to fob one off and chuck one in, and we're not even in the Champions League.
Yeah.
And do you know what as well? I actually didn't look. 22-23, we won our Champions League group under Conte, and I believe we were top after 11 games, or 2nd after 11 games. We were unbeaten.
Well, weren't we 3rd or 4th when he left? We weren't even that far out of it.
Yeah, no, I know.
Well, we did win our Champions League group, didn't we?
So
Frankfurt, Sporting, and Marseille.
Yeah,
that was really close.
It was not easy. It was an easier Champions League group, but we've now got the luxury, especially in a big Europa League phase, as they call it, to rest a load of players. So I can't buy that. We've got enough players to compete in both. It's not like we're sacrificing the league because we're now in the Europa League.
We've been a little bit hit by injuries again. There was that stat doing the rounds that we've had the most players to miss at least one game this season.
Really?
Yeah.
I saw that.
Lloyd Becker says here, morning chap, still reeling from the Ipswich game. Me too, Lloyd. He's currently of the opinion that our only real quality are players like VDV, Kulu, Solanke with a bunch of potentially decent youngsters. I think we've got more than that. But brings me to a conversation I've tried to avoid on this show because it really, really divides opinion, and I don't really want to go down that route. But it's about the ownership. People, when we lose, they go straight for the chairman more often than not. We'll never have anything under this club. Well, I disagree. I think the truth is somewhere in between. There's good and there's bad. We've had 2 title races, or maybe 1.5 title races, a Champions League final, stuff you'd never have dreamed of happening when he took charge, or even years into his tenure. People say it's nothing to do with him. Well, you can't swipe him for the bad and not
credit him for the
credit him for the good. He's part of it all. But I do think
you can't enjoy going to that stadium and and have that as well.
Yeah, but some people don't care about that. They want the old White Hart Lane back. And I get that everyone has their opinion. I just get a little bit fed up with everything's his fault and never credit for anything. So I'm very much on the fence. I'm not going to go down the route of slagging the bloke off. But Ollie Sperry made a great point to me on WhatsApp this week. It kind of felt like we were going in the right direction until about 2019 with the stadium. And since then, we've kind of taken our eye off the ball and people joke about the hotel and this sort of stuff. But I do feel that the squad has been neglected a little bit. And I think this summer was a real...
Yeah, it highlighted it.
It highlighted it. As Lloyd says, bringing in some really good young players. Solanke was the only first-team player. We talked about Neto and Gallagher. Who knows if these were true? But we were left with respect, Odebear and Werner.
I actually scrolled back recently and there was a message that I put in about April or May. And I said, I do not rate any of our wingers. We've got such poor wingers. Do you remember that? Yeah. Kulu isn't a winger anymore. Son's getting on. We had Werner and, okay, Johnson's done. And I was like, we need 2 £50 million wingers.
Yeah.
And we signed 0. We needed 2 starting wingers to really push Son and Johnson. And Son, as much as people don't want to have the conversation, is on his way out. He is. His legs are going. He's no longer someone that you can really, really rely on. He'll have his moments. Yeah. But if we'd signed another top player, we should have already signed Son's replacement, in my opinion. And we didn't. And on the other side, we all needed Neto. We all knew we wanted Neto, who's doing really well now. And the irony is we signed Odegaard and Neto had this terrible injury record and Odegaard started 1 Premier League game.
And now he's on a hospital bed somewhere.
Yeah. And that goes back to the chairman. And I'm not here to, hammer Levy, but that goes back to the chairman and what you say about taking care about the squad. And now, look where we are.
But the Neto one is, I think...
not just Neto, but someone else.
But that's what people use that as the example. And I said before, I think, if somebody decides to go to Chelsea offered on an 8-year deal, then you've got to hold your hands up and go,
compete with
you
that.
Can't compete with that. Perhaps there were other players out there. I just never saw us getting Solanke in on that fee and spending the same on someone else.
Well, it was always that we're going to have to sell Richarlison to be able to sign a winger potentially.
Money's been spent. People will always point to the net spend, and we have spent money, I think.
But they don't tend to like the big, lots of medium size maybe. But the Solanke one...
I think it might be wages, Jake. We are 6th on the wage spend this season, but we are closer to 7th and 8th in that spend than we are to 5th, 4th. So... Listen, I don't care who spend the money, Levy. I don't care who spends it. I think the only way to compete now, really, is to spend big money on wages. I think that's part of the problem. We've never really had a problem on transfer fees. We've wasted so much money. Richarlison and Ndombele, there are others. So,
but I've said this before, lots of clubs have done that.
They have. Arsenal, Man United, Chelsea, they've all done it.
As I always say, you're probably going to get more misses than hits. But I would say over the last 4 or 5 years, we've probably signed more players that have turned out to be successes than ones. Yeah, okay, there's an Ndombele for every club at every season. But then you're not taking into account who else we signed? Your Bentancurs, your Kulusevskis, your Romeros, your Van de Vens, your Vicarios, your Udogis.
If you look at our top 10 most expensive signings, it's an awful list.
Right.
But as I say, for every Ndombele, we've got some for 20 million, Dele Alli for 5 million.
Yeah.
As you say, in the
even further. But
but I'm talking, if you look at the top 10, it's there's a Sessegnon there and there's a Lo Celso there and I'm not going to mention Sissoko because I was a big Sissoko fan, but as I say, and Ndombele, and there was a Sanchez there. But when we've actually not spent as much money, they've been better. As you say, Kulu, Bentancur, Bissouma should have been better. But hopefully Solanke is going to sort of buck that trend. But
so it's column A, column B, and column C at the moment. For me personally, I think the manager needs time. 100% don't sack the bloke. Give him time. See where we get to. Think we probably need to improve the squad, but the only way to improve the squad is for an owner to probably chuck some more money at it.
Well, and also for the manager to be the same, because otherwise you bring in someone else, different philosophy, different players, then you're just starting from scratch again.
For the record, I want us to sign Mitoma.
You wanted to, or you want
us to sign Mitoma?
Brighton, you want to go to Brighton, you look at Chelsea, they've had to pill for them for 50 million plus for every player.
Son replacement, Mitoma.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'd take a few of their players.
We should already be looking at a Son replacement in my opinion.
Well, this guy that we're signing from
Well,
Korea, who knows?
We've been
but-
linked with one of their players who are on loan recently this week, Buonanotte from Leicester. Decent enough player.
who I would describe as a nice player.
Nice player.
But is he...
Not a Son replacement kind of.
No. He plays in the middle.
youngster,
Yeah.
No,
He plays
but I
in the
just meant, you
Yeah.
know, a more established.
Yeah, but the problem is, as you said, Son wasn't an established player when we signed him. So that's the thing, you know.
Yeah, you
We're-
don't necessarily have to, but
We-
the problem
we're-
is
we're
if you
not
sign
often in
too
the
many.
I know, but we're not often in the business of kind of bringing in big name players. Maybe it's the wages, but then the problem is we don't have a handle on the club's finances and that kind of thing. They obviously have a cap. I read somewhere of 200k a week.
Who's that?
The club of the wages.
Oh, yeah, I read that.
Can you know, if they start paying players 350 grand a week, is the club going to be supported financially in other ways? We've got PSR rules now.
You were thinking of FSG, weren't you?
FFP. No, we've
Oh,
got
FFP.
PSR rules now that everybody has to adhere to. I don't know how much money we make from all other commercial assets and deals and all that kind of stuff.
One other criticism of the current ownership, I may have said this on the pod previously or thought about saying it and didn't say it. I watched a brilliant documentary recently on the Boston Red Sox. You may or may not be interested in baseball, but I don't think you need to be to watch this documentary. It's a brilliant documentary about a sports team that had forgotten how to win, basically. They were living in the Yankees' shadows, and they interviewed John Henry when he took over in around 2003, 2004. And his words were, when I took over this franchise, a word I hate, when I took over this franchise, I inherited a team that didn't know, it was like a country club, he said. I inherited a country club that didn't want to win, care about winning, or knew how to win. And that, I kind of paused it and I thought, oh my God, that might be Tottenham Hotspur. So I think that there needs to be a change. It does come down from the top, of course it does. But for me, the results are the buck at the moment is stopping with the manager, and he's the guy. We can talk about what we should sign and what we shouldn't sign. This is what he's got to deal with right now, and I think we should be, whether it's 10th or 3rd, the points should be better.
Bentancur's ban's just been confirmed.
Ronnie says just blah blah blah. An independent regulatory commission has imposed a 7-match suspension and £100,000 fine on Rodrigo Bentancur for a breach of FA Rule E3. Well,
we knew that.
We knew that. People just said, why is he not getting the same ban as Enzo Fernandez, which is 0?
He doesn't play for Chelsea.
No. There was this loophole that he was on international duty, but it doesn't matter. Just because Enzo didn't get one doesn't mean
it's irrelevant.
Enzo should have got one.
Bentancur deserves whatever
he should be getting a ban. We might appeal.
Maybe it shouldn't have been 7, but he deserves. If you play silly games, you win silly prizes. You do.
Very good.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Bentancur denied discharge.
Silly boy. Silly boy. And for him who
can't play till bloody Boxing Day, is it now?
Yeah.
In the league.
Yeah, and as you pointed out, he's on 4 yellows.
Oh my God. With 2 games left.
Yeah.
But he hasn't guaranteed himself a Christmas off though. Can't put that.
I bet he's a little bit pissed off, isn't he? Thinking, could have done this a week.
You know
later.
what? I can see him leaving these shores in the summer. It's been a really frustrating time for him. I think he might just want to.
He's out of contract in 18 months.
Yeah, I love him. I think he's such a wonderful footballer, and I'll be very sad to see him go. But as you say, what did you say? Play silly games, get silly.
We seem to have a lot of them, don't we? Basuma, Romero.
Right, we've got another football match coming up. It was lovely not playing this weekend because we didn't lose. But we've got to talk about a team that we've got a really funny record against, who obviously we played last season and wanted to lose, and that stuck in Ange's throat. But we've got to go out and beat them. Should we talk to a Man City fan?
We better.
We spoke to a Man City fan earlier who, little spoiler alert, was a little bit downbeat on his football club. So we'll play
Maybe he's actually a Tottenham fan.
It didn't sound like it.
We'll play that interview in right now. Delighted to be joined by David Mooney from the Blue Moon podcast. David, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So let's dive straight in. Is it a crisis at Man City? 4 defeats in a row. I know they were all tough games, all away from home. We actually started that run. What is going on over there? How has it happened, and how are the fans taking it?
Yeah, there's kind of three prongs to this issue, and it's kind of come together to make a little bit of a perfect storm. Now, the Spurs' initial defeat against Spurs was not the worst thing in the world, not unexpected. You saw from the kind of the way that the players were laughing and joking on the bench, the fact that Guardiola didn't bring Haaland on when they were chasing the game towards the end, that sort of thing suggested there was a limit to how far they were willing to push that. Now, don't get me wrong, they will have wanted to win the game and go through into the next round of the cup, but at the same time, there was a limit to the number of resources that they would use to get there. Throw in the Bournemouth and Brighton games are a little bit different. The Sporting game is very weird because they were fantastic against Sporting for 35 minutes, miss a whole host of chances, and then suddenly their heads fall off and they give away 2 penalties and concede a couple of goals on the break. Now, goals on the break is a running theme here because at the minute City are too easy to play through. So you pull out, and the full big picture of this season is trying to kind of build a system that will work without Rodri in there. We've known Rodri has been a key to how City have played, certainly in the last 4 years when they've been winning the titles. But kind of trying to find somebody who can do that job who isn't him is really difficult because it's such a unique job that he does and has, that if you go out there and you buy a player that is his, essentially is the backup to Rodri, you've got to work out what to do with them when Rodri's fit. So if they're just a number 6 who comes in and is world class when he's not there, are they going to be happy playing 10, 15 games in a season? Probably not. They're going to want to go somewhere else. So you then start looking at the level below that. And that's kind of how City have ended up in this position, because they've got players who can play as a 6, but end up kind of not being like the absolute tip top of what City sort of need from a 6. Because they're also players who can play elsewhere. And you look at somebody like Mateo Kovacic, for instance. I think he's a really handy little player, but he's not a number 6 on his own. And you put him alongside Ilkay Gundogan, who has done the 6 for City in the past. He's not the youngest anymore, and you kind of you've got that problem of trying to build that relationship. Now that's all happening at the same time that everybody's injured. And like nobody's expecting any sympathy for the number of injuries City have. It's not like it's, every team has injuries, you have to deal with it. But at the same time, Guardiola has consistently said he wants to work with a small squad. They have a small squad. And now kind of those chickens are coming home to roost because there's nobody else available. Now, you look at the squad on paper and you look at the teams that played against Bournemouth and the team that played against Brighton, for instance, that's full of City names that we recognise. It's full of talent. The problem is those names have played consistently in the previous games, or they're currently playing with an injury because they're just trying to kind of muddle on through. And that's why you end up in a situation where they're brilliant against Brighton for 45 minutes. Brighton change something, start being able to play through City, and City don't have any answers to it. So at the minute, what they're doing is then even further out from that, you have the usual kind of autumn troubles that City have had in recent years. This kind of feels a little bit different because this feels like they're trying to battle their usual kind of autumn gremlins of the season, trying to work out how to deal with this season. But they're doing it while nobody's available. And that kind of knock-on effect of having players who are fatigued, having to play more than usual, maybe picking up further injuries down the way, just means that at the minute they're not able to put a 90 minutes performance together. So they were good against Brighton for 45 minutes, good against Sparta for 35 minutes or so. Sporting, sorry, not Sparta. Bournemouth, they didn't play well at all up until the final 10 minutes when they kind of decided that the last 10 minutes was the only time they were really able to put it into fifth gear and go for it. And they got a goal and if they'd have been able to play for about 15, 20 minutes in that game like that towards the end, they might have got an equaliser, but they didn't deserve it. And then the Spurs game was youngsters. So, well, not youngsters, but again, a kind of a youngster infused team, let's say. And that's kind of culminated in the 4 defeats in a row. Now, the issue for City is that Spurs at the weekend could easily become 5 defeats in a row. Because the one thing City are right now is very easy to play through. And the one thing that I think a lot of us fear from Postecoglou is he's going to want to try and do that because that seems to be his thing.
Dave, you mentioned about the struggles recently, but is this all on Rodri? Because City seem to looked more fragile in the last, 6 or 7 games, not just the 4 defeats on a row. If you factor in the Fulham game where they could have easily lost, and the way that they capitulated against Sporting, they capitulated against Brighton. Is that all on Rodri, or is there other issues? Because it seems like without Rodri, there's a massive loss of belief in the squad when he's not on the pitch.
It is a little bit about Rodri. There is a lot on kind of how Rodri anchors the team, but at the same time, they went away to Stamford Bridge at the start of the season without him and won fairly comfortably. And Chelsea haven't been haven't had a terrible start to the season. The early game against West Ham, they went to the London Stadium there without him, and it was a bit ropey at times, but they were generally very good. Ipswich, they absolutely took apart, but again, we kind of wait and see what we get from Ipswich this season.
No, we saw it. We saw it last week, mate.
Yeah. And then Brentford, they did that without Rodri as well, and that was a hard fought battle. So they've had to battle this season so far without him, but they've generally done okay without him. The issue in the last 4 games, I think, is trying to work out properly how to deal with his absence, but at the same time having to keep playing players who aren't really quite up to it. So I think I do think it's 2-pronged. I think yes, there is a massive hole to fill in Rodri's absence. If Guardiola had more ability to swap a few players here and there and kind of juggle things around a little bit more than he's had, he might have come up with some sort of solution now that's similar to the start of the season. Now, don't get me wrong, it wasn't the most convincing start of the season that City have had without him. But they were getting by, and they were getting by fairly well, and now they're not getting by. Yeah. And it's kind of all come at once. I think this is probably that kind of old. It was Einstein, wasn't it? Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Or was it Newton? I can never remember. I'm not great on science. But this is kind of the opposite reaction to the start of the season action, and it'll probably balance out at some point in the next few weeks, and we'll kind of be able to look at it that way.
You mentioned the squad.
But I do think it's trying to deal with the Rodri problem while nobody's fit. I think is the bigger issue.
You mentioned the squad. For me, I wasn't a huge fan of Alvarez. I don't know what City fans thought, but he was obviously a top talent to bring off the bench. Is there frustration that there isn't a backup to Haaland? I know you can play Foden in there, and this one can go in as a false 9, but is that a bit of an issue as well?
Well, there's a real kind of I wouldn't call it elephant in the room, but there's a real kind of Haaland conundrum, because the guy's insane. He scores so many goals that he's so clearly worth his place in the team. But at the same time, City find it a lot more comfortable when they don't play with a centre forward, when they play with a false 9, and Haaland isn't that. So if you kind of you'd look at the last few weeks of City being too easy to play through, the natural answer for Guardiola was to go back to a false 9 and to put an extra body in the middle and kind of assert control that way. But to do that, you have to take Haaland out of the team. And you take Haaland out of the team, who's scoring? Because nobody else scores at the moment. I think the second goal scorer is a list of 5 players all on 3 goals. And Haaland's way out in front on about 14, 15. So like if you take his goals out of the team, then City really have to work to get something in the net, because they've really traded in the last few years. The goals used to be shared around kind of like the front 3 quite a lot. You'd have Mahrez and Sterling and Bernardo and Foden popping up with a lot more goals than certainly the players that are there now do. And you look at the wingers at the minute. Doku isn't a great scorer. Savinho hasn't scored yet for City. Grealish has never been a great scorer since he's come in. They're all there to kind of create opportunities for Haaland to score. So they've really kind of flipped from this "we will share the goals around" ethos to "we're creating chances for the big guy up front." And when they let Alvarez go in the summer, I was kind of okay with it. I was kind of in the position of, he wants to be a number 9 somewhere. He isn't going to be number 9 while Haaland's at City. So, fair play to you. Go off and do that. Because when he was dropping deeper into the kind of De Bruyne pockets, he was okay, not great, but would still pop up with a goal here and there. I mean, they could probably do with him now, because he's a body in the middle that knows kind of what he's doing, and the structural issues that City have as a team I think a lot of them could be solved by flipping to a false nine, but there's just no way you can do that while Haaland is fit and available. Because if you take Haaland out of the squad, the press will look at you and go, "What the hell are you doing?" His teammates will go, "Why on earth are you doing this?" Haaland himself is going to go, "What on earth are you on?" So it's a bit of a tricky conundrum, and again, it's the sort of conundrum that Guardiola has to answer in the autumn in City's previous seasons. It's one for him to answer this autumn. Just needs a few more fit players to do it, I think.
So, Dave, go on then. You sound like you're pretty worried about this game coming up.
Very
at the
worried.
weekend.
Very worried. Yeah. It's when you're on a run of form like this, it's City have shown in patches in this form that they are still really, really good. There was a good spell in that Spurs. I mean, I watched the Spurs game on TV in the Cup, and Alan Smith said at one point, "Whoever gets the next goal is it's going to be crucial," because it was 2-1 at the time. And I understand it, because I could see the way the momentum was in the game. If City made it 2-1, City made it 2-2, then they could easily go on and make it 3-2. If Spurs got it, then it killed the game. And there was a couple of chances you got through in at the start of the second half, where basically you played straight through City when there was nobody there to stop it. And I think it ended with a couple of Ortega saves. The problem is, you could look at that team and go, well, who's scoring? Nobody's scoring. The City are not getting the next goal because there's nobody in there to actually finish the chance that they create. And I don't know if that is just solved by having Haaland on the pitch. I think there's
certainly helps. Jesus,
yeah, it certainly helps. But I think there's a certain kind of, if you can keep Haaland quiet and you can kind of get bodies around him and make it difficult for City to find him, City are really struggling to score apart from that at the moment. So I think that kind of plays into it. And when you're on this sort of run where the ball, I mean, it sounds a bit churlish to say the ball hasn't been bouncing for you, but there's certainly against Sporting, certainly against Brighton, they had opportunities to put the game beyond doubt, and it was cleared off the line, or it hit the post, or the keeper makes a great save, that sort of thing. And when that sort of thing is happening, you kind of get that feel of, oh, we all know what's happening here, and then it goes on and happens. And when you're kind of in that mood, the international break has been good to kind of break that run of momentum. But when you're in that mood, the last thing you want to do is have a team like Spurs who are going to play really open attacking football and get through and try and break through it. I think there's a lot to be said sometimes for, we all as fans moan when the other team come to the Etihad and sit deep and put 11 players behind the ball. And
we will not be doing that.
No, we won't.
But at the same time, there's something to be said against playing against those teams, because they have, while they have a clear game plan and have no ambition to leave their own area, while you have the ball, they're not going to score. And I think Spurs will have more of the ball than teams that come and sit deep.
Yeah.
And so the last thing I kind of want is a team that's going to try and play through the middle of City while City have got problems trying to block up the middle of the pitch. So you've got that with Spurs. They have Feyenoord in the midweek, so even if they do chuck in the towel and lose against Spurs, they might get a win in the Champions League before they then have to go to Anfield. Yeah. So there's a real worry about these next two league games, because City's problems at the minute don't lend themselves to playing teams like Spurs and Liverpool. Let's put it that way.
And before we let you go, Dave, so it's 4 defeats in a row. A couple of stats on that. It's Pep's worst ever run, although there is this theory that he drew he had a draw against for Bayern, and they lost on penalties, and some fans will say that was a defeat, but it's his worst ever run, 4 defeats in a row. City's worst run since 2006 under Stuart Pearce. Is it going to be 5 in a row? Give us your prediction for the weekend.
I think it could. I really think it could be 5 in a row. The same thing is I understand people not backing against City, because City generally kind of put these runs to an end. But I mean, Guardiola says all the time, records are there to be broken. I don't think this is quite what he meant, but I at the minute, I would take anything that just means City have played well for 90 minutes and they've put away their chances. If that means it's a really nervy 2-1 win, I will take it. If it means it's a 2-2 draw where City have had to really battle but get something out of the game. I just think they need to end that sequence. It would be a bit churlish of me to come on as an opposition fan and kind of be as downbeat as I kind of have been for the last 10, 15 minutes or so, and then predict a barnstorming City win. I think if City are going to win it, I think it will be tight, and I think it'll be something like 2-1.
It's amazing to hear a Man City fan not happy. I mean, you think we got problems?
Well, I mean, not happy is a relative.
We'll swap our last 5 years if you fancy.
Yeah, we'll swap over, no problem. David, really great to talk to you. As I always say, good luck for the weekend. I don't really mean it. We've got this weird record against City. For us, we hope it continues, but we'll see what happens. And thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, for a team that's not wanted Arsenal to win the league the last few years, you've done a real good job of taking points off us at various different points. So yeah,
we gave it to you when you needed it most. So
brilliant, Dave. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Cheers. Thank you. He was miserable. Well, great content, but my point, like, not miserable, but a City fan
he was
being
miserable
downbeat.
on City, wasn't he? Yeah.
I mean, they've lost 4 in a row. Imagine that.
And they've won 4 leagues in a row.
Welcome to
God, it must be so tough.
Welcome to everybody else's world, Dave. But hey, listen, great to talk to a City fan. I was intrigued to see what they had to say.
It can't be easier. They're only favourites for the FA Cup, Champions League and League. It must be hard. They're actually not favourites for the league at the moment.
No, Liverpool is so consistent.
Hey, but we're favourites for the Europa League, so you know.
Stop going on about the Europa League.
But I actually can't believe we're favourites when you look at the other teams, because I think they discount the likes of Roma and is it Napoli?
No,
Napoli not in Europe this year.
the teams are not great. I think it's Porto, United, Lazio, and Roma.
That's it, Lazio and Roma.
There's not much going on.
These teams are very, very well. They do well in Europe, don't they?
Do.
You know, I wouldn't necessarily fancy us to beat a seasoned European side over 2 legs. We've just seen it too many times before, haven't we?
Gary Diamond is convinced.
Friend of the show.
Former
friend of the show.
Gary Diamond's using the words, we should win the Europa League. I'm a little bit more could.
I always say to people that, what does should mean?
Well,
what does should mean? Why should we win the Europa League?
It's a failure if we don't. For me, if you're saying should, I think could, whereas there are teams who couldn't. There are teams in this who just won't. We are one of the teams who could, which I think is different to should.
Those teams, Porto, Lazio, I can't think of the German teams, maybe
Eintracht are good.
But over one tie, yeah, great. But quarterfinals Porto, semi-finals Lazio, last 16, that's not easy. And then to go and beat a potentially Man United or Roma in the final, that's a lot. You saw when Arsenal were favourites for the Europa League for quite a few years in a row and never won it. Yeah. It's not easy to go and win 4 ties, which is what we got to do.
Which is why I say could.
Third favourites is Bilbao. So it's Tottenham, United.
And you'll be playing Bilbao.
That's because they're hosts.
Bilbao, Lazio, Sociedad, Galatasaray, Roma, and then Frankfurt, and then Ajax and Porto. So, yeah.
All right.
Now easy games at this level.
Before we get Roma, we have to play Manchester City away, where I think we said last 3 games we
4 points.
Drew last year, lost the season before, and beat them the season before that.
3-3, 3-2, 4-2. So it's not going to be 0-0.
But it looks like we're going to go into this game with Dragonson and Davies at centre half. Was it Romero and... Sorry, it was Emerson and Davies last year?
We got a draw,
We got a draw. Lo Celso was in that weird 5 weeks of
his whole
playing
career.
like Messi says he can play. What do we think then? Sunday?
Saturday.
Saturday
night, isn't it?
I wanted to talk about Sunday.
Sunday if you live in Australia.
Saturday, yeah.
I don't know. I think there's every reason. I don't think we'll definitely go and lose. City have been not very good. We could be anything. Well, that's true, isn't it? Yeah. We could be really good going forward. As Dave just said, a team that's going to come and play at us and get through the middle at us is where we're vulnerable. And City have always basically been vulnerable on the counter attack. Remember the COVID season when Liverpool won the league? City just fell apart. I think it was before they lost. They lost somebody. They had somebody else who was out for a lot of that season, and they were really vulnerable, getting picked off on the counter attack. That's what we did to them when we've been successful at theirs. We could do it again.
I'm going to come to your predictions very shortly, but Ronnie's not happy. He thinks we're going to get beat 4-1.
No.
Yeah, he says, sorry, City 4, Spurs 1.
No, he's saying last season City should have been 5-0 up at half time.
Yeah, but underneath, I think he's predicting this week.
Sorry, no, I think is he not saying that that's what the score should have been at half time, or
I don't know.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, we could have been 5-0 down at half time. It was an incredible game in the end. And we do have this weird way of getting back into games.
and we get away with
City.
it at City a lot, don't we? Somehow do well.
But we're missing the 2 centre halves. Dave mentioned about how if you crowd the box, don't give City chances, you've got a chance. But one thing Romero is good at, I know he falls asleep, but he's very quick to see danger and when he's not falling asleep. We'll miss him. We'll certainly miss him. Van der Ven, if we want to break on City,
It doesn't sound like he's going to play, does it? We've not heard anything.
There was some talk that he might be out for even longer than first feared. They'll love to get Haaland in behind. Dragusin and Davies chasing him. I don't know.
But on
I
the
don't
other
know.
hand, I've watched
Unlikely.
City against far lesser teams than us. Fulham could have scored 6 at City a few weeks ago. I
lot
don't
of
know if you saw it.
chances.
And Brighton's and Bournemouth could have scored 5 easily. We will get chances,
Yep.
and we've always got chances against City. I know the other end will be a problem, but there's a chance for us to go and score 2 or 3 goals there. Definitely, there will be chances. City are not the same City as they were in the last few seasons.
They
They're
barely
just
kept
not.
any clean sheets.
They're
this
not.
season.
No,
Yeah, they haven't.
No,
They haven't.
So it'll be Basuma and Sarr on the hope that they come back from international duty unscathed. And I assume Gray. You'd like to think Gray now is a backup midfielder.
We should get some minutes now, shouldn't we?
So Basuma and Sarr in the middle, you're saying?
It has to be now with Bentancur out.
He won't go Basuma, Cooley, Maddison.
No.
Or do you think Maddison's now just dropped? Is he benched?
Well, no, for this game specifically as well, I don't.
Might see him come back against Fulham, but he certainly won't play. I don't think away to City.
No.
Okay.
Good sub to bring on off the bench though. If you need a goal, if you need your 4th goal to try and win 4-3,
Who?
where at City, Maddison, good player to bring on.
So you're going 4-3 Spurs.
I
was
think
going
it's
to ask your
shootout, isn't it?
prediction, please.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could be something like 3-3. Could though, couldn't it?
Could be
I mean, what was it last year?
3-3.
What was it the year before?
So he said 4-2.
That's what I mean. There's goals in this.
And the year before that, 3-2.
There's goals
to
in this
Spurs.
fixture.
Yeah.
Plus 3.5 goals.
I think it would be absolutely hilarious.
If it's
If we-
0-0.
No, if it's 0-0, if we go there and win, I'll be like, I just can't. I don't
This
know.
is Burnley vibes, isn't it? From Conte season when we lost to Burnley on the Wednesday and then everyone was down in the dumps. And we beat City on the Saturday night.
Saturday night.
Yeah.
Was that Cooley's first goal?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I remember driving back from I've been
The
at,
deck he had.
Kane scored.
no, but I've been working somewhere.
Deck he had.
I can't remember where, like an FA Cup replay after the Burnley game. And I was listening to TalkSport after we lost to Burnley. My word, the phones were hot. You think they're complaining now?
Yeah, but that was awful.
That game was that City game. That City win was just
Because Conte went
Out
on a
of
rant,
nowhere.
didn't he, after Burnley?
out of nowhere.
He did most games.
Yeah. All right, so you're going 3-3,
Yeah.
4-2 City.
4-2 City. Get in trouble for predicting Spurs defeats on here. We've not done it that often, but we
Not
do.
done it
Who
this
do you get in
season.
trouble with? Your wife
Our wonderful listeners
and viewers. You get what you're saying is you get told off in the comments,
Mm-hmm.
right? So are you going to let that get to you and now predict? Or are you going to double down and suggest that we're going to lose 5-3?
I said this last week, I think, before the City Cup game. A guy came up to me, I had a problem with my ticket. I had to go to the ticket office. There was a guy in the queue who was a neutral.
Those fakes, they'll do that to you.
And he said to me, "Oh, mate, what's the score going to be tonight?" And I just thought to myself, I can't predict Tottenham.
I hate predicting it.
We do it on here because I just, whatever, but
Well, come on then. Get on with it.
We should do what Gary said, shouldn't we? We need to make 2 predictions. The prediction if we turn up and the prediction if we don't turn
I think
up.
for City away, my prediction would still be the same. I think we get beat. I think we lose 2-1.
But that's also, it's no disgrace saying we're
No,
going to
it's
lose. I mean, it's fine. Who's going to have a go at you for that? Most people lose at City, so,
I'm sure somebody will.
it happens.
Khalil will be back telling me he didn't like the title of the show.
Well, apparently we lost to City, beat City, then lost to Burnley after,
Really?
essentially. Which
What's this, 21-22?
No, 20.
it's
21,
21,
22.
That wouldn't shock me.
We lost to
Maybe we lost to
Southampton.
Southampton
No,
at home,
Southampton.
yeah.
Yes, that was
Because
it.
it was sandwiched between Southampton.
It was Southampton.
And
I
Burnley.
remember because my little boy
You're
had just
right.
been born, and the first game he saw us was
Is that right?
lose to
No, so we
Southampton.
lost to Southampton 3-2.
Yeah.
Then we lost home to Wolves.
Oh, jeez.
Then we won at City.
That was it.
And then we lost to Burnley.
Actually, he was right. He was right.
and then we won
Lost
4-0
was
at Leeds. Doherty scored. Cooley scored.
Right.
You're right, Ross. That's not like you, Jake Saunders, to get that wrong.
Bring back Gareth
I was going to
Bale.
say, bring back.
I got it the
Gareth
wrong side. It was the wrong side.
I tell you who's coming back Monday. Friend of the show, Gary Diamond.
Wow, that table's looking forward to it.
Yeah, he did whack that table.
It was I'd say a rant to end all rants. But yeah, it was good to air his feelings, get out his frustrations. It's like what is it? Agony Aunt hour in here.
The fans liked it.
The fans did like it. SEJ 988. Gary consistently has the best Spurs analysis. Cathartic listening to him. Bradley Thompson, by far my favourite podcast. Keep it going. And this was my favourite from Diamond Dave 492. Feet up, glass of brandy. Just enjoy this show so
You've got to
much.
watch us drunk.
Love a rant.
In order to like.
Look, Gaxman loves a rant from Gary. Maybe,
There you go.
Maybe Gary needs to have his own show. Half an hour with Gary Diamond.
James.
There'll be some people out there hoping that City win just so you can get another Gary rant.
Johnson makes a mistake and so does Romero. Well, he's not going to play Romero, is he? I suspect. Okay,
Is
gentlemen.
there a reason that Gary's not on this week? Has he been given some time away?
No, he was going to come on. He was going to come on.
And he'd lost his voice because it hadn't come back after all the shouting.
Yeah, I was dropping him anyway. We love Gary and whatever. I won't talk about him. It's not his show. It's our show here today, this week. All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. Thank you to everyone who's joined us in the comments. As I say, do you know what? You tell them. You always have a go at me for not telling them where they can find us.
They can find us on YouTube. We'll be watching us now. Twitter at EOGTHFC and Instagram the same, I think.
Yep. TikTok at Echoes, ECHOES, THFC. Put some stuff on there. And if you're not already a subscriber, do so. If you're not already a member, we've got a giveaway coming up soon, but that will be for members only. So join us as a member. You can do that on a desktop or a laptop. You can't do it on your phone or I believe on an iPad. You've got to do it on a computer. Next to the subscribe button, there's a join. Do that. And we've got some giveaways coming up. That's it, gentlemen. We'll be back on Monday after who knows what will happen at Manchester City when we'll preview Roma and we'll also preview Fulham next week in a live show next Friday. Thank you for joining me.
Next week.
Big week. A week is a
Every
long
week's-
time in football, said Ange.
And every week's a big week in the Premier League,
Yeah.
apart from international break.
Yeah. Barney, thank you very much for your comment on Bentancur. We've done a little bit of that. So we start the next 7 league games without Rodrigo Bentancur. All that to come. We'll talk about that more next week. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And we will see you soon.